Fatigue for the Germans was a huge problem, as it is in the game. Push your men too hard for too long and they will drop in their tracks. Fatigue accumulates while ever your armies are set to blitzkrieg posture. Every time a unit moves or fights, its fatigue level increases. In mud conditions, the effect is doubled. Changing postures won't reduce fatigue, but it will stop fatigue accumulating. The only way to remove fatigue is to order the army or division to rest. This is done through an action card found under the card tab up the top. An army ordered to rest has the remainder of its turn to move to a safe location. Resting will take a couple of turns, during which it will be immobile and vulnerable. At the completion of a rest, all fatigue from all divisions will be removed. You can find information on fatigue status in the daily logs, in the unit modifier reports for individual armies, as shown here on the screen, and by asking any individual division to report status. For the Soviets, fatigue isn't an issue. As a rule, most of their troops were hardy peasant conscripts who were familiar with the conditions, well adapted, unlike the Germans, who found conditions in Russia a bit of a shock. The Germans were also having to advance into Russia, covering vast distances on foot, whereas the Soviets were falling back. Vehicles, tanks and transports, given enough time, will suffer mechanical failure and breakdown. The probability of a breakdown happening is directly related to accumulated mileage. You can see the mileage in the staff reports. The game tracks mileage for each individual division in two ways. The first being the total, fairly obvious, and the second, the mileage since the last refit. Now, of the two, the one that makes the most difference is the refit mileage. The higher that goes, the greater the probability of a mechanical breakdown occurring. The Panzer Group summary report gives overall figures for both. The daily logs highlight whenever breakdowns occur. Vehicles lost through breakdowns are removed from the units immediately, but the game keeps a tally of these. You can see how many vehicles have been lost from breakdown by either the tool tips in the main Panzer Group tabs. For instance, if we have a look at 1st Panzer Group, we can see it's lost 250 tanks from combat and 80 have broken down. You could also ask individual divisions to report their status, and they will tell you the same information. These vehicles can be recovered and returned to their units by ordering a rest and refit in exactly the same way you do to order a fatigued army to rest. Card tab up the top. Rest and refit. You're using the same cards. Play that on a Panzer Group. There is an 85% chance of any broken down tank or transport being recovered and being returned to the unit. the same as ordering a rest for an army. It will take 2 turns for the refit to be completed, in which time the unit will be immobile. Any slow divisions, infantry divisions within a panzer group that's undergoing a refit will automatically rest and recover their fatigue at the same time. The Soviets have a simpler system. Every time they move a unit containing tanks or transports, there is a reasonable probability that they will lose some through mechanical failure. These vehicles can't be recovered. Historically, the Soviets lost more tanks through breakdowns than they did through combat. Anything that broke down was typically abandoned on the side of the road because the tank crews were untrained or had very poor training and couldn't fix even simple matters.